This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media. Today, we're going to deconstruct a really unique and, frankly, battle-hardened leadership philosophy. It was forged in one of the world's most challenging economic environments. And in an era of global volatility, this is a playbook for resilience that pretty much defies everything they teach you in business school. This quote, well, it just says it all, doesn't it? A black swan, that super rare, unpredictable, high-impact event. It's not some once-in-a-career shock for these leaders. It's their baseline. It's just another Tuesday. So the strategy here isn't about managing a crisis. It's about operating inside a state of perpetual crisis. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll dig into that environment of perpetual crisis. Then, we'll look at three core strategies that sound completely counterintuitive: cash as a weapon, inefficiency as a strategy, and diversification for survival. And finally, we'll pull it all together into what we're calling the resilience playbook. Okay, first things first, we have to grasp a fundamental difference here. In most stable Western economies, strategy is built on an assumption of predictability, right? But the business landscape in Nepal is defined by continuous overlapping shocks, and that demands a completely different strategic architecture right from the ground up. Just look at this timeline from the last decade alone. A catastrophic earthquake, followed by a crippling months-long trade blockade. Then the global pandemic lockdowns, and right after that, a severe credit crunch that basically froze the entire economy. You see, this isn't just a series of isolated, unlucky events. It's a relentless rhythm of disruption that shapes every single business decision. So that brings us to our first core principle, and it's a big one. It directly challenges the modern financial gospel of, balance sheet optimization, the idea that holding on to excess cash is a sign of bad management. And this slide just lays out the philosophical divide perfectly. On one side, you've got the conventional wisdom. Cash is lazy capital. It's dead weight. It should be invested or given back to shareholders. But in the Himalayan model, cash is the exact opposite. It's your number one weapon. It gives you the power to defend your turf in a downturn and, more importantly, to go on the attack when everyone else is weak. And their commitment to this idea is radical. We're talking about holding 15 to 20% of the entire balance sheet in cash. Now, if you showed that number to a CFO in a typical Western company, they'd probably think you were crazy. It seems like a massive opportunity cost during the good times, but really, it's the premium you pay on an insurance policy that always pays out when you need it most. The 2022 credit crunch is the perfect case study. When the banks just turned off the taps, competitors who were leveraged to the hilt just froze. They couldn't pay their suppliers, couldn't make payroll, but the cash-rich firms, they went on the offensive. They started paying their suppliers early, which locked in loyalty and better prices. They sped up their own projects. They even started buying up valuable assets from their failing rivals. See, they didn't just survive the crisis. They used it to fundamentally improve their position in the market. All right, the second principle is maybe even more counterintuitive. It's about embracing what looks like inefficiency. Specifically, we're talking about building redundancy into the supply chain, treating it not as a waste, but as a calculated investment in resilience. And again, we see this direct clash in philosophy. For decades, the entire business world has been obsessed with the just-in-time model. It's designed for hyper-efficiency, and it works beautifully, until it doesn't. And I think we all learned that lesson the hard way during the pandemic, right? The Himalayan model is different. It's just in case. Its main goal isn't to minimize cost. It's to maximize the chances of staying operational, no matter what kind of shock hits the system. That trade blockade back in 2015 was the ultimate stress test. When the main border crossing got choked off, companies running those super lean, just-in-time models ran out of materials and had to shut down their factories within days. Their greatest efficiency suddenly became their single point of failure. So what does this just-in-case system actually look like in practice? Well, it's multi-layered. It means you're maintaining supplier relationships in both India and China, even if it costs a bit more. It means you're holding 3 to 6 months' worth of inventory as a buffer. And in some extreme cases, it even means owning your own trucks and power generators just to insulate the business from a failing infrastructure. Okay, this brings us to our final core principle. And this one challenges another piece of modern business dogma, the idea of hyper-specialization. In this model, it turns out that a deliberate lack of focus is actually what creates resilience. You know the mantra, especially from Silicon Valley.
Do one thing and be the best in the world at it. And that is incredibly powerful in a stable market. But in a place like Nepal, where an entire industry can get wiped out overnight by a political decision or a natural disaster, being over-specialized is a huge vulnerability. The Himalayan model instead builds a portfolio of businesses where the risks aren't connected.
Now let's look at how this plays out in a real crisis. Take the pandemic. A company's hospitality and tourism division. Its revenue drops to basically zero overnight. If you were just a hotel business, you'd be bankrupt. But in one of these diversified conglomerates, the division selling essential consumer goods keeps humming along, generating cash. The hydropower plants keep running, providing a steady, predictable revenue stream. So, the cash flow from the healthy parts of the business is used to keep the struggling tourism division alive, letting them hold on to key properties and talent for the inevitable recovery. So when you put it all together, hoarding cash, building redundancy, diversifying risk, you start to see that these aren't just isolated tactics. They actually form a single, coherent philosophy for building an organization that doesn't just survive uncertainty, but actually thrives on it. And there's a perfect term for this: anti-fragility. It's a concept that goes beyond just being robust or resilient. Think of it this way. A resilient system gets hit and it bounces back to where it was. But an anti-fragile system, it gets hit by shocks and failures and volatility, and it actually becomes stronger, more capable, and more dominant because of it. So this is the actionable playbook. Number 1, hoard cash. Treat it like your primary strategic weapon. 2, build redundancy. Turn what looks like inefficiency into strategic muscle. And 3, diversify your risk. Make sure that a single storm can't sink the entire ship. And that right there, that's the ultimate objective. It's a total shift in mindset. You stop wasting energy trying to predict the unpredictable. Instead, you focus all your energy on building a business that is structurally designed to withstand any crisis, whether you see it coming or not. You're not trying to predict the weather, you're building an unsinkable ship. Which brings us to the final, critical question we should all be asking ourselves. As the world gets more and more volatile, are our own organizations optimized for a stable world that, let's be honest, might not exist anymore? Or are they truly built to not just survive the coming storm, but to sail right through it and emerge stronger on the other side?